So as we leave the sewers behind, and a mysterious explosion apparently seals up all the doors in the general area, we do find ourselves in the mysterious Tokyomesh. Now, our good, small friend Razzo did make some mentions as to what the Tokyomesh could be, but he really didn't seem entirely sure just what it was. So it's pretty much going to be up to us to explore around and maybe get a better feel as to where we are right now. It definitely does have a unique appearance to it. And it has the more interesting feature of totally invisible NPCs. Yeah, Razzo is not going to be the only person that we're going to be running into in this game. There will be a number of NPCs, both visible and invisible, that will sometimes just spook the hell out of us and not give us any real useful information, but we can only hope for the best. Still, I'm not entirely sure why they decided to not really show the NPCs in the 3D section, but I mean, at least adds a level of tension that the game probably didn't need. And from Tachibana here, we do get a little bit of helpful information here. That siren we heard was something of a self-defense mechanism for the mesh here. He does kind of back up the idea that, from what Razzo said, this was some kind of installation built by the Japanese military, and that more than likely that explosion set off a self-defense system that shut down a good percentage of the doors and more than likely set up some fairly dangerous mechanisms to keep people from snooping about that aren't supposed to be here. Sadly, that's about the extent that Tachibana is going to be useful here. He doesn't seem to be entirely there, and yeah, we're probably going to die if we don't get some better feel for this area. Still, it is a bit surprising that, so far, at least the two people that we have met down here don't really seem like they belong here. They don't seem like military personnel, they don't seem like useful personnel. And really, this entire area, which for some reason is labeled Hellnight on the map there, is going to be pretty sprawling, so we might as well get to exploring. First obvious place is going to be the central square here. Not really central to anything, but it's also not a square. It seems pretty round. But yeah, we do find a number of NPCs here, each with their own lovely and fitting nickname. Well, at least some of them are pretty fitting. I don't really see Brawny here as very brawny, but we should probably give him a little talk. He's amicable enough. Definitely not a harbinger of doom, as Tachibana was, saying that we were going to die like bugs. Though he does seem to press the warning here that since the mesh is in anti-intruder mode, there's a good chance that if we don't really mind our business, we'll end up very deceased. Good news is that he has some vague inklings as just to how the Tokyomesh is set up, and he does give us a little bit more insight here, namely in the fact that the Tokyomesh is split up into 3 floors. Right now we are on the first floor, which you can kind of consider a living area / recreational area. There's also a second floor, which is, as far as I can tell, supposed to be for making items and keeping up food products for the upper floor, and then there's the bottom floor, which Brawny here seems to have no idea whatsoever is on that floor. So I can only assume that that's probably where we really want to go, especially considering that nobody comes back there from there alive. So I'm sure we are going to have to head there at some point, which is pretty much the case since most of the game will take place in the Tokyomesh. Now, Strange here does definitely live up to his name, not only with his bizarre Bedouin beekeeper outfit, but his speech is a lot more flowery and disconnected than probably anybody else that we'll find on this floor. Talks about ancient lands and being visited by Imperial Army ghosts in the night. And he mostly seems to be rambling about just incoherent nonsense. But we do want to listen to what he has to say because he does specifically mention that this ghost that visited him mentioned very important documents. And for some reason or another, this ghost did leave behind an object with Strange here. So that does sound like a fetch quest. Something to keep in mind. And this lion-esque man here, this lumberjack, apparently is pretty happy living in the Tokyomesh. There's no noise, there's no horrible people, and there's just a never-ending stream of excitement. There's never a dull moment down in the Tokyomesh. And, rather ironically, he feels that our want to escape this libertarian paradise is pretty insane. And that's about the extent of this game's humor. And our final NPC to talk to here is Sweeper Leno. And he does mention the Holy Ring, which we haven't heard the specific name of, but that was the cultist, the Armageddon cultist that we saw during the intro cinematic that did, for some reason or another, did start chasing our character. And as far as I could tell, I don't think they chased us down here. It seemed pretty voluntary, but more importantly, Leno does inform us that in the northwest area, there is some access stairs leading up back into the sewer, and we can possibly use that to get back to the surface and maybe report just what's going on. And just to really impress on the fact that that is where we need to go, he does reiterate northwest corner, northwest area. Now, beyond all those NPCs, we also do find this bizarre-looking column, possibly a tower. Sadly, we can't really do anything with it. It just seems like is at least hollow, and that there is a door, though we can't really access. I suppose we'll just have to keep that in mind for the future. But we'd still have plenty of area to explore, so we might as well talk to more NPCs. Now, Onishi here has kind of a problem in that he figures that we are completely stupid. Now, we are probably to blame for the entire mesh going into anti-intruder mode, but he does notice that we are carrying around a compass, and he decides to go into great unnecessary detail as to how a compass works. So, more or less, the first floor of the mesh here is split up into 4 sectors. Northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. So we already know that the stairs we are looking for, I think we're in the northeast. So, using your obvious powers of deduction and the compass, you'd probably assume you'd want to go northeast on the compass. And guess what? You'd be totally right. Good job, you figured out how a compass works. In case you couldn't figure that out, Onishi here is nice enough to pretty much follow up the obvious and point all this out, but more than anything, he also completely reiterates the fact there's some stairs that we can head to. We should probably head to those. But you know what? There's so much more floor to explore. I figure we should probably investigate that before we head to those stairs. I mean, yeah, there's this anti-intruder system set up, but everything seems pretty clear for right now. Even though Naomi suddenly has this spidey sense regarding a danger lurking ahead. And while she has been pretty good about picking up on danger, there's nothing on the map, we don't hear any breathing, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, so far that monster's been pretty not imposing. Well, the previous form of the monster was not imposing. This is version 2.0. And as you can already tell, he has a significant and very obvious difference. And that is the fact that he is much faster than he was. He is... I think at this point, he is already faster than we are. So it is a good idea to try to elude him as quickly as possible. The problem is that this new area does introduce a few new types of rooms, such as locked doors. And also these seemingly innocuous-looking rooms where our character says that there's nothing out of the ordinary. The problem is that apparently rooms that are just massively ordinary are not of interest to us, and the game just immediately boots us out of the room. So that can be a little bit of a danger, because that's not going to be the only time we see those particular types of rooms that just immediately boot us out. But since we have managed, I think, to possibly elude the monster, it means we can quickly take a look around and see what appears to be a very similar symbol. I think we saw that on the key card from before, so maybe we're heading into a good area. Or not. Yeah, at this point, the game decides, hey, that first area was just a tutorial. Now, we're going to start to spawn the monster in very random places. Some of them are scripted, some of them are very random. Most of them, though, are very inconvenient. The good news is, via our stumbling about, we managed to find a pretty interesting guy here, an appraisal mole. Now, while he does seem like a somewhat imposing, albeit chubby, hitman, he does pose a very useful figure. Now, we don't really have any currency in the game, so it's not a system of purchasing anything here. Instead, for free of charge, he is going to look at our items and appraise them. And while this doesn't seem immediately useful, he is pretty much the game's hint system, so if we showed him the iron card here, he will give us some useful information, such as the fact that the symbol on the card is the symbol of the Holy Ring. So this could easily be used to access areas of the Holy Ring. Maybe that symbol on the wall we saw earlier is one of those areas. More importantly, though, he says that he's seen people accessing information terminals with these cards. And honestly, we probably wouldn't have been able to divine that on our own, so appraisal mole can be somewhat useful, especially if you don't feel like just, using your adventure game logic to rub everything you have in your inventory against everything else. And speak of the devil, we almost immediately find ourselves in front of an information terminal. And with the use of that key card, we can hopefully figure out some information about this floor. Pretty much the extent of the information terminal is to show us a map of the floor we are currently on and a breakdown of the sector or the little areas that pretty much cover the floor. So if we did want to find out what that area was with the symbol, it apparently was a hospice. That could be of interest to us. Sadly, the breakdown for most of the other areas is pretty generalized and not too helpful, so if anything, it's good to at least visit the information terminals maybe once, at least to get a layout of the floor. The mildly annoying thing is that even though we now have seen a full layout of the floor, it won't automatically fill up our map. We still have to manually go around to each square, which can be kind of tedious, but, well, we do want to head back to the hospice, but there is one last thing I want to check out over here. And that is this oddly dressed, I guess, Japanese Imperial Army officer. I don't know if this is still the garb that the Japanese Army wears to this day. This looks very much akin to a World War II outfit, and especially considering the odd way this particular gentleman reacts, he probably is more than likely an officer from World War II that has been trapped here in the underground capital for decades. And he's apparently been stuck on a mission of high importance for those very, very long decades. Thing is, though, that he is getting a bit up in his age, and he has decided, coincidentally, that because we are here, we're obviously here to replace him on his very important duty. And the good news is that even though this seems completely illogical, this important duty is to guard some important documents. Now, you may recall, probably about 5 minutes ago, it's kind of hazy now that we've had to run pretty madly away from a horrible monster. But that strange fellow in the central square did make a mention of needing some important documents, at least to appease this mysterious army ghost that visits him in the night, and there you go. We already have what we need to fulfill that quest. So we'll leave the Sergeant be, and well, I still want to go visit the hospice. Well, first I want to try to elude the monster, because we are very much in a dead end. Even with these mildly wider corridors, we're not given a whole lot of real estate to try to evade the monsters, so really, really good idea to keep track of where doors are that you can open. I hear the monster, but oh, there he is. Whoop. Yeah, while the monster is incredibly fast and incredibly dangerous, he can still kill us in one hit. He doesn't have the best turning radius, so you can strafe around corners to evade him. It can be pretty dicey, though. So, our visit to the hospice here is not overly fruitful. There's No items to pick up, but there is a little bit of backstory that we can pick up by investigating around a little bit. I can only imagine why, instead of having a proper hospital facility, they decided to go with the place where you take people to die. But considering these documents here, they seem to be expecting quite a few casualties. We do find from these documents, though, that they were doing some excavations of some nearby caverns, and they did come across some very odd mutations on the casualties that were brought in. Some of them had almost fish-like luminescent qualities. Could explain what we've been seeing with the monster outside. There also are a few more x-rays we can look at. Though, I guess they are to further elucidate these horrible monsters that we're seeing outside aren't new. But with that out of the way, hopefully we can manage to avoid the monster looming about. There is one thing I think I did forget. It's really honestly easy to mix up all these doors and maybe to forget something, but there is one more thing we want to get in one of these side rooms here. And it's not this dismantled machine, but the tool that was being used on the machine, the screwdriver. Yeah, this is incredibly easy to miss if you're not going out of your way to investigate every room, and it's completely understandable that you don't, because there are about 4 rooms just in this general area that will just immediately kick you out and say there's nothing of use here. So the game doesn't really reward you for exploring, especially since going down that one hallway to explore pretty much triggered a monster to chase us. So back in the central square here, we can go ahead and give Strange Tsunoda the documents that we picked up. And for our troubles, he does hand over the mysterious item that the pale-faced ghost handed to him. And it is a very useful item. Now, at this point, we don't really know what we can use this for, but there is another reason why I've specifically been trying to explore the floor rather than just head directly to the aforementioned stairs, and that's because, well, we wouldn't have been able to get to those stairs. Pretty much the anti-intruder system, as we saw at the very start of this video, has pretty much locked down a good number of the doors. But we now have a key to access one of the many doors around this area, and that allows us egress into the next area. And wouldn't you know it, it is the northwest area. It comes accompanied with a very nice, very atmospheric tune. And for now, we do get a little bit of a reprieve from that super fast monster, so even though I know the stairs are in this area, we might as well look around. Now, for the most part, I don't think I'll be investigating every one of the information terminals. Not all of them are super useful. This one, though, I think was probably worth investigating. Because, I mean, even though we have been told specifically where the stairs might be, it still is a good idea to get a layout of the floor. Especially considering that, hey, there's a bar. I think a drink might actually help this entire adventure. Still, I guess we should get back to the surface. I'm sure someone is probably worried about me or Naomi or the gunfire or the monster. The missing... we should probably head to the surface. Still, my curiosity gets the better of me. And really, there's just so many colorful people waiting for us down here, such as Natural Mika. Now, Natural Mika has a little bit of a problem. Now, obviously, she is a very comely young lady, and she has any number of suitors. One in particular has been nice enough to give her a Walkman. Sounds like every girl's dream. The problem is that, for one thing, this guy is a total stinkwad. Yuck. The other problem, and the much more pressing problem, is the fact that while Walkman is great, broken headphones kind of breaks the deal. So, maybe we should keep on the lookout for some headphones. Maybe it'll make me get happy. Maybe it'll get us in well. Give us that natural mystique. So, I guess we should keep on the lookout for headphones. Maybe we'll find some on our way back to the surface. We could hit up a Radio Shack, who knows? Still, we are almost home free. It's been a lot quieter than I would have assumed, but really can't kiss a gift horse in the mouth here. So, we might as well head back up to the surface and call it a day. Or, Naomi can have one of her weird attacks of the spidey sense, and she feels some vague unease about going up these stairs. And while she has been pretty much batting 1,000 in regards to these feelings, I kind of want to get the fuck out of here. So, the game does give you the choice here. And quite obviously, yeah, you don't want to go up the stairs, but for the sake of the LP, let's do it. So yeah, through our completely blinded hubris, we managed to get Naomi killed. I haven't really revealed it up to this point, but while we do only have one hit point ourselves, we can die immediately to the monster. Having our partner there is pretty much our one-up. Pretty much any point before this, if we had actually been hit by the monster, Naomi would have been killed, and we would have lost her permanently. Which would have been a massive detriment considering how well she had been doing it, warning us about traps and the like. But just for the sake of knowledge, yeah, this is another way that you can pretty easily get her killed, and we do manage to have another little conversation here with Razzo. And he does fill us in on the fact that, yeah, this entire staircase here, just a massive trap for the Holy Ring to lead people into getting murdered by the monster, possibly for some mysterious sacrificial reasons. Yet again, Razzo doesn't exactly know. So he's wrapped up in paper towels as far as I can tell, so we can really only take what he says with a grain of salt. Still, he does impress upon the fact that once your partner is gone, they are gone. They are dead. So right now, if we decided to, hey, let's talk to our partner, yeah, we're all alone now, and that's just not how we want to be. So, the staircase is off the table, which is fine. We have that bar. That sounds like a perfect place to visit and just drown our sorrows, considering that our one possible avenue for leaving this place has pretty much been cut off to us. But, look on the bright side, Naomi isn't dead. So we at least have our magic monster detector, which has been working out pretty well for us. Even though she missed out on this monster. Some of these character models they use are pretty good, I should say. Oddly enough, this man fills us in on the fact that there apparently is a well-known Japanese serial killer in the bar. Or at least he seems to think so. It's a bit of a bizarre thing to assume, but we're probably going to have to learn about that next time as we head inside Little Jamaica and see what waits for us on the islands.